Hello students, today we are going to discuss a very important topic of biochemistry. We will discuss about carbohydrate metabolism. We will focus our lecture on glycolysis. So let us start with the lecture. So the topic is, what is metabolism? Metabolism is the sum total of all the chemical reactions taking place in a living cell that maintain the living state of cell and organism. For the convenience, we divided the metabolism into two categories: anabolism and catabolism. Catabolism is the breakdown of molecules to obtain energy, and anabolism is the synthesis of all compounds needed by the cell. Bioenergetic is the term that describes the biochemical or metabolic pathway by which the cell ultimately obtains energy. Energy formation is one of the vital components of metabolism. So today's lecture is about carbohydrate metabolism. Let us proceed with the lecture. Energy is the basic need of cell and organism for their survival and to carry out various cellular reactions. Carbohydrate metabolism is the fundamental biochemical process that ensures a constant supply of energy to living cells. Food supply carbohydrate in three forms, that is starch, sugar and cellulose. All these forms has to be converted into glucose because only glucose is the form of carbohydrate that cell can take inside. That glucose which can be broken down by glycolysis enter into Krebs cycle and an oxidative phosphorylation to generate ATP. As you know that ATP is the energy currency of cell, which is later on used by the cell in various chemical reactions. The overall reaction of the glucose breakdown is as one glucose molecule, that is C6H12O6 plus 6 molecule of oxygen give rise to 6 molecule of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water and energy in the form of ATP. First step in the carbohydrate metabolism is glycolysis, which is also known as EMP pathway, on the name of two scientists who has discovered the glycolysis, the Edward Buckner and Meroff. A glycolysis is the sequence of chemical reaction that convert glucose to pyruvate or lactate depending upon the availability of oxygen, which we will discuss in next video, with the production of ATP. Glycolysis is the set of chain reactions that can be divided into three phases. First is energy investment phase, second is splitting, and third is energy generation phase. The first reaction of glycolysis starts with the entry of glucose. The glucose inside the cell is converted into glucose 6-phosphate via the enzyme hexokinase. The enzyme chooses the ATP and the phosphate group of ATP is transferred to the glucose at 6th position and convert glucose into glucose 6-phosphate. Hexokinase uses manganese as a cofactor. In second step, glucose 6-phosphate get isomerized into fructose 6-phosphate. The enzyme which isomerizes glucose 6-phosphate into fructose 6-phosphate is phosphoglucoisomerase. In third step of the glycolysis, the fructose 6-phosphate is phosphorylated again to form fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. The enzyme is phosphofructokinase. It again chooses ATP and transfer the phosphate molecule to the first position of the fructose 6-phosphate, and fructose 6-phosphate is phosphorylated into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This phase is known as energy investment phase because two ATP are used in the two reactions. Again, the first step, the conversion of glucose into glucose 6-phosphate is irreversible in nature. It acts as a regulation point in the regulation of glycolysis. The next phase of glycolysis is the splitting phase. In splitting phase, the 6-carbon molecule get splitted into two 3-carbon molecule. Let us see the reactions. And in splitting phase, the fructose 1,6-bisphosphate with the help of aldolase enzyme gets splitted into dihydroxyacetone and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The dihydroxyacetone get isomerized into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and the next reactions of glycolysis take place. The dihydroxyacetone 3-phosphate is isomerized into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate by the enzyme phosphotriose isomerase. Our next phase is energy generation phase. In this phase, the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, which is produced in last phase of splitting, get converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. In this reaction, substrate level phosphorylation takes place in which inorganic phosphate is added to the substrate and one NADH is produced, which get into the ETC chain and is converted into ATP. We will study about it in our upcoming videos. The 1,3-bisphosphate glycerate is produced as a result of this reaction, is converted into 3-phosphoglycerate by the enzyme phosphoglycerate kinase. In this reaction, the phosphate from position number 1 is transferred to the ADP. From this position is transferred to the ADP and it gets converted into ATP. In next step, 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into 2-phosphoglycerate. This phosphate group change their position to second position of the molecule. The enzyme which convert this position, that exchange the position of phosphate, is known as phosphoglycerate mutase, and 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into 2-phosphoglycerate, which is in next step lose a molecule of water and converted into phosphoenol pyruvate. The enzyme which convert this reaction is known as enolase. A water molecule is released in the reaction and a double bond is added in the molecule. And last step of the glycolysis, the phosphoenol pyruvate get converted into pyruvate. The phosphate of the phosphoenol pyruvate is transferred to the ADP, which produce ATP, and the enzyme which convert phosphoenol pyruvate to pyruvate is a pyruvate kinase, With this, the let us see the balance sheet of glycolysis. In the glycolysis, one molecule of glucose plus 2 ATP plus 2 inorganic phosphate plus 2 NAD positive plus 2 hydrogenine and 4 ADP will produce 2 pyruvate plus 4 ATP plus 2 water plus 2 hydrogenine and 2 ADP and 2 NADH2. We will see the fate of pyruvate in upcoming video, where we will study about the fate of pyruvate in aerobic as well as anaerobic condition, and we will also uh, study about the energy uh, ATP production in the whole glycolysis process. So this is the end of video. We will meet in a next video. Our video is concluded. Thank you.